Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 389. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Sean, why are you putting a birthday cake on my head and running away? So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin and the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we are going to be talking about Wonder Woman number 30. We are also talking about Aquaman and the Others number 1, Sinestro number 1, Green Arrow number 30, and we talk about the events of Justice League Dark number 29, the ending of Forever Evil Blight. We have kind of a casual discussion just about the ending of that event and how we felt about that. So it's a pretty packed episode.
See, I was expecting a comment based off of Aquaman and the Others or off of Justice League Dark. I was not expecting the birthday candles on the head.
Well,
I guess happy birthday to me.
And who's that big guy coming up behind you? We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the brand new DC Infinite Partnership, which you can check out at dcinfinite.com. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, I've talked on the show many times about how I'm a big fan of Absolute Editions, and this one is a kind of a collection completer. It's the Absolute Batman Haunted Knight hardcover. This is another collection of the work from Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. If you've heard of Long Halloween, this is basically a collection that's set in that universe. It collects Batman Madness number 1, Ghost number 1, Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween Special number 1, and Catwoman When in Rome 1 through 6. This is $99.99 regularly, 50% off only $49.99. If you have any interest in getting Absolute Editions, if you haven't gotten them before, they're oversized volumes that are just gorgeous. They come in a slipcase, and it's just a really special collection. With the artwork of Tim Sale in this is like a must-have piece. So I just wanted to shout that one out. Remember that DCBService.com is a digital partner. If you link your digital accounts to your account at DCBService.com, you earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. Over at InStockTrades.com, I am a big fan of Neil Gaiman, and in particular the Books of Magic series, which was kicked off. It was a 4-issue miniseries by Neil Gaiman, and it's available in a brand new trade paperback. It's regularly $16.99, 50% off only $8.50 over at InStockTrades.com, where you can find hardcovers, collected editions, trades. They're always offering specials and discounts. Remember, any orders of over $50 gives you free shipping as well, so you're already saving amazing amounts of money over at the website, but you can also save money on that shipping, so it's a great way to kind of bundle together a whole bunch, and I'm a big fan of saving money on comics anywhere that I can, and both DCB Service and InStockTrades.com are your source for doing that, and I want to thank them for supporting the show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Make a wish. Let's talk some comics.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the Atom.
Our first book will be Green Arrow number 30. The writer is Jeff Lemire with Andrea Sorrento on the artwork, Marcello Maiolo, Maiolo for the colorist, Rob Lay letterer, Sorrento and Maiolo as the cover, Harvey Richards as the associate editor, and Brian Cunningham as group editor.
I think it's Sorrentino on the last name, but I could be butchering that too. Andrea Sorrentino?
Yeah.
I want to comment on just how much I love the visual style of the covers for this. We got this Outsiders War arc that's been going on, but There's some interesting choices being made on the artwork for this one, because each issue has been focusing on a specific clan in nature with the storytelling. And I've been really digging this. I've been a Green Arrow fan since I was a little kid. I remember having the action figure, the Mego. And I remember I just always loved the variations on the character, but when when the character with the beard and the bow and arrow, I grew up as a kid being a Robin Hood fan. I think that was my gateway into Green Arrow, but then once I understood who he was as a character, I really started getting into him. But I've run hot and cold in his comic book runs. Like, there's been creators, and Mike Grell's one of the first names that comes to mind, who have really just nailed it with this guy. And then there's been other runs. I'm not talking about the New 52 run, I'm talking about his history. There's been other ones where it's kind of like petered off a little bit. We've had some great runs by Chuck Dixon, for example. And I'm not going to go through everybody who's had a great Green Arrow run, but there's been artists and writers who I think just get it, and other ones where there's just a little bit of a disconnect with what makes Green Arrow cool. And I think when you nail it, it just works. And this is a run that has really been working for me. I think they've got enough of what's classic Green Arrow, the Grell stuff, what's working in the TV show, and yet something new. I think there's an important part of it. You've got to have that legacy. You've got to have the right amount of grit and dirt in it. You've got to have a vulnerability to Ollie, but you also need to believe that if Ollie gets a little too dark, if Ollie falls apart a little too much, and it's too much like a part of the series, like, you don't need 10 issues in a row of Ollie trying to find himself. It just gets to be a little too much. If you have an arc where, like, he's down and, he's building himself back up, cool. This is a great example of, though, where we're really kind of nailing everything that I think's working for the TV series. There's a balance of Ollie's making mistakes along the way, being vulnerable, having a humanity, but yet you never at any point in time feel he's incompetent. He's competent. He's got skills. There's some serious badass issues. I think that's the interesting balance of finding with the character. The right amount of we can connect with him, because he's not Batman, and we don't need that. I don't need to feel like Ollie's 27 steps in front of everybody. I need to feel like Ollie perseveres in spite of his own weaknesses, but also because of his strengths. We need to have a strong play of his strengths. And you also need to show how he is somebody that can really utilize a strong supporting cast. And Team Arrow, I know you've thrown this out on the show throughout years of working with, the podcast. The idea of Team Arrow, whether it's him and a partner or him and a group, there's something about that, whether they're active players or behind the scenes, that is a really important part of making Ollie work. Even when he's in conflict with them, that's an important part of making Ollie work. This series is really grabbing every bit of that right now while putting in some really cool lore. I love the stuff that's going on with the clans right now. This, to me, is classic Green Arrow. This is the kind of stuff that I like. He always is best when he skirts the line between what works for Daredevil and what works for Batman. You know what I mean? Not quite there, but there's got to be a line there where he kind of skirts that kind of stuff. But it's got to feel uniquely Green Arrow, but there's a place, and I think that comparison is that I'm throwing in there. There's got to be some kind of line that Ollie skirts that's between those two characters, but not quite either of them, that just works best for him.
Yeah. This is, Green Arrow is one of those characters that you hit it on the head where you said hot and cold, and just there are some of these runs where you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And there's others where I've read the story and I've enjoyed the story. I'm like, okay, he's a neat character, and I like his human flaws. Mm-hmm. But I don't want them to go so heavy into it that it's only about just weakness and character flaws that he has. He's got these moments where he's got these high highs and these great runs where you're looking at him and you're like, wow, this is a great hero. And then he falls from grace, and then he has his slip-ups. And I think that's part of the human experience. And when you're dealing with a hero that is a human who has a heightened trained skill, you need to make sure you see those vulnerabilities. You need to see those, the humanity of him. And I think he is a great character that has shown us the human side. And just art styling, I'm absolutely loving the look of this book. And this is one of those things where I always say, the different art styles, but, if you have a style that fits the stories being told, if you have a writing team and an art team that are working together, and each style is just laying out, where you get some really cool, the alternate type of panels, the non-traditional panels, your color, especially your color sequences that we've had where we have a lot of heavy green focus, but it's not like so overpowering that you're like, oh, again, really? Is that the only color you have? There's this nice balance of the green focus, but it's not just a green book. They're playing around with the greens, they're playing around with the shadows, they're playing around with the coloring, the art style, just the various how they're laying out this book. It all fits, and it's jiving wonderfully together, and you get some of these great double page splash pages where they got a ton of color, they got a ton of action going on, and you got to sit there and you just got to take your time with the book and go, okay, let me read this, let me look here. Oh, hey, look at that little panel down there, didn't see that before. And this is something that I'm really digging about this title.
Yeah, and I think this title right now is really benefiting from everything that's come before. And let me explain that. There's been some really great artists and writers working on this series prior to this. I think the trick with the New 52 and Ollie has been trying to figure out who Ollie is in the New 52. I think it's a little bit harder in his case with him being a character that really hasn't been rebooted before, at least on this level. I think, through the feeling out process that other creative teams have gone through visually, you're kind of on the visual style. I think, this visual style now, we've finally nailed it. And I've loved a lot of the artwork on this series going beforehand. I think what's working here for me is, it's the right marriage of writing, art, and colors. And I think before, in some of the runs I've enjoyed before, we've had, I've really enjoyed the art, but something was a little off in the story. Or, I really enjoyed the story, but the art didn't quite match the tone, if that makes sense. I think this just really, all of those parts have come together in this run, where it's not just one thing that I'm focusing on, it's the whole package. This is a team that seems to just really gel when it comes to Ollie. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. I got a comment on the color work in particular, because if you take a look at the first couple pages of this, where, he's with his dad and Shadow, and that visual there, that color work right there, the tones, it's a style that really works for Green Arrow. It takes advantage of his hood and that whole costume. It shows how this guy would be able to, wearing green, kind of work in the shadows. And that's really important when you're dealing with a character like him, but still separating him from Batman. I also like the choices when you get into the page where you were reading off the art team and the whole creative team. The choice sometimes to go single tone or two tone, to kind of give the characters a very white look in that sequence when they're smashing on in. There's just a very, I don't know the right term for it, but it's just a very artsy style to what they're doing. They're getting clever with saying, we want to set this book apart, give it a flavor that makes it something special, but you don't want to go too stylized for no reason. You want to go stylized in a way that fits the drama that's unfolding on the page. That's where I think this is working, where you've got the art team understands the writer or the writer understands the art. I won't pretend how I know how that works. It's a collaboration that seems to happen in special teams where you get stuff like this. And this really is, I think they finally got Green Arrow where he should be. And I think it does benefit from the creators that have come before in the New 52 who have kind of done the feeling out process of saying, okay, hey, this creator was doing this with the art before. That really looked great. Let's pull some of those elements into this. And this writer was doing this. I think there's been a lot of parts here that I think the series is finally benefiting from. That's just me. I mean, I don't know. I kind of see elements of what I liked before kind of gelling together into this run. I don't know if you feel that way.
Oh yeah. And that panel, the 2-page spread you're talking about is just, again, prime example of some of the stuff I was really digging about the artwork. Because you talk about just that, hey, normally it's a heavy green focus. Well, we kick it to the red with the yellow and the white accents and them coming through the windows. But then you look at the bottom of the pages and you get the one panel of the dead Ollie, quote unquote, with the arrow in his head. Then it goes on, we got the bad guy. Then they show, Robert jumping in, hitting and swinging, then landing, and then coming up with his arrow. Arrow notched and ready to rock. And I love just how they showed the motion. and just two, non-traditional panels right at the bottom, but they have the heavy color focus there, but right above it you got that heavy red saturation with the whites and the yellows accenting it. But, it was a great blending of just how, you're telling the story through the artwork of them bursting through. Rah! You can, you got the energy and right into that last panel right at the bottom with him ready to rock and roll. I thought this was, again, a really cool art direction.
I don't always focus on art, and I'm a big art fan. There was some art sequences in this that really just stood out for me. It's another double-page spread, but it's really because of the use of the non-traditional panels that I want to jump to it. You know when Kitana pops in with Butcher?
Yeah.
And you see that page where this is an example of not just non-traditional panels, but color work and art taking advantage of the different style panels to draw our eyes to certain sequences. Like, you've got Ali in the upper left-hand corner, you got Kitana in the upper right, and they're trading back and forth about their time in Justice League together. I liked that attention to detail. But then you see the use of red again in the battle, adding this sense of there's a battle going on here, and you see just the sheer numbers, and you can really kind of spend a lot of time taking a look at the different, trade-offs that are going on there. But the use of the triangular panels there to focus us on, the rogue clans are here. This is it. Axe, swords, arrow. And, those sequences, they're flashing us to the people doing the talking with full color.
Yeah.
I just liked that choice. It's just really just visually, it adds a sense of drama with the reds where they are, but then the choice to do the focus on the people doing the talking that way, I just really liked it. I appreciated that choice. And it's something that visually I just think is really, really pleasing.
And especially like with that panel and a lot of the other panels, they're using a heavy triangular type focus on these panels, which always, to me, always reminds me of arrowheads and just that same kind of sleek style that you would get from an arrow flying through the air. So I kind of like the fact that we get, when you look at that, it's almost like arrowheads sort of, they're not exactly drawn arrowheads, but you kind of put them together, or just, for me, I kind of had that focus where it looked, throughout that panel, as well as other panels where they're getting that, as opposed to a square or a round panel, which would be more of the quote unquote traditional.
Books like this, books like The Movement, books like The Flash, there's a lot of books now that I'm really enjoying because of their sense of style in the way that they're telling stories. It's like the Flash creative team when they jumped over to Detective Comics, for example. Really enjoyed seeing that in that first issue. We talked about that on our last Batman episode because, they bring kind of a unique storytelling to what they do. It's the writer and the artist. They just get it, in the way that they work together, the whole art team. This is happening here. It happened in books like The Movement. There's stories where I'm seeing things that I just really like because it seems like the creative team is just making a choice to tell a story both with the words and with the visuals, and they just understand the characters, they understand the backgrounds, they understand the extras, so to speak. Like this whole page I'm talking about right here, there's a lot of extras there.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really critical to the way that this page is laid out, focusing us in on the characters that we want to, because I wanted to see the trade-off with Ali and Kitana. Too often you have these meetups where the characters don't acknowledge their relationship, and sometimes there's no way to do it. But in this case, I love that they acknowledge that right away. These two are just on a team together. Yep. That is something that should be acknowledged. I just really appreciated it. The next page with the tooth.
Yeah.
I like action unfolding that way. And do I want every book to mimic this one? No, I don't. I like that this book looks this way. That's why, do I want The Movement to look like this? No, I don't want it to look like this. I want it to look like The Movement. I like the way that Detective Comics looks right now because I was really loving what they were doing in The Flash, and they changed it up for Detective Comics. I think those are things that stand out for me. Wonder Woman, we're going to talk about next. You can't get more stylized in the visuals and writing than Wonder Woman is right now. This is the kind of stuff that I'm really finding myself drawn to in comics right now, where you've got these teams that are just doing some really special things on their books. It's a really good time to be a fan when you've got this kind of product coming out, and this is really what I want to see from my Green Arrow.
And it's funny because I was laughing about that the cool scene with when Onyx is punching one of the guys and his teeth is flying out, and they're showing the little panels of the teeth flying, but just the overall story that's being told and the breakdown of this team,
yes,
which I thought was absolutely wonderful. That each person has a task to handle. Katana's got Onyx, Ali's got this, Robert's got, and it's the breakdown of, okay, we got to make sure mission first. Yeah, we're here to kick some butt, but we got a job to do. We have to stop, the outsiders, whatever they're planning. So you're here, you're there. And it's, again, this is the Green Arrow title, yet all these other characters, all these other, heroes and whatnot have their own tasks that they have to accomplish for this to be a success. And I love seeing that because we talk concept of Team Arrow, but even just not even a formal official team, just this type of dynamic where one guy can't do this mission alone. He needs to have a team with him. He needs to have people who can do their job and do it correctly. And I love seeing just these couple pages spread out, and then as the story even unfolds, where we see more of these heroes needing to do what they need to do.
And let's not make light of what you're saying here. His quote-unquote Team Arrow is comprised of somebody he used to be in Justice League with, his dad, and Shadow, who he left on an island. This really is a relationship of necessity in the moment. And I like that, too. And everything you're saying is, amen, 100% correct. And I know you were going there with this. It really is one of the things that works on this book is seeing, this is a big war that's going on. These are clans that are fighting each other. Ali wants to do it on his... He can't. He just can't. And I like that we feel that as the reader, yet I can totally understand. Ali has not had a chance to address his father. To really get to the root of all this. This is a betrayal in his mind, everything that he's gone through.
Yeah, because it's funny with this whole thing with him and his dad and just how he's angry and upset with him. And I got to tell you, it's one of those weird things that first initial read through, or if someone had told me what was going on, my reaction would be one way. But when you start reading it and you start thinking about it and you start just actually going into everything that Ali went through and's been through, you kind of really can't understand and you can see his pain. Yeah. Especially because the way it was really laid out with how to Ali, it wasn't the island that made him the man he is today. It was watching his mother, suffer and die from cancer, watching that powerless feeling. And that was, to him, was more of the birth of the hero and not what he had to go through on the island to survive. That was just a skill he picked up. That didn't make him a hero. What made him a hero was watching the suffering and dealing with that and going through that pain. And I thought those were really cool sequences where Ali is laying this out, and you want to have you sit there and you see those scenes, and you're like, man, I hope these two have this chance to have a better some more time together, and they can hash out their problems and they can work through their situation, and everything can be all sunny and roses for them. Not so much.
Right. Richard Dragon being brought into this was something that I really liked. Because, I know Richard Dragon traditionally, in the storylines that we had with him and The Question. I will admit my history with Richard Dragon isn't huge. He's one of those characters that I've seen through team-ups. He's one of those characters that I've seen, more recently in his relationship with the Bat books and with The Question, both versions of The Question. To see him now here and brought into the New 52 in this role where... he's a bad guy. We don't know his whole backstory. I want to know more about him and what they're going to do with him. I like it. It's adding an intrigue to me. I like the surprises every so often. He's a character you can get away with this with.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. And I like the fact that, once again, we're getting the intelligent villain who isn't just the, he's going to, Seattle is now his city. So he is your quote-unquote traditional, cartel, traditional crime lord, however you want to refer to him, but there is that intelligence to him. There is that level of power. It's, so again, the best villains are those who you sit there and say, okay, this guy's going to be a tough one to beat. How is Arrow going to take this guy down? How can Arrow ever really even think to beat him? Even if he gets the guy arrested, even if he gets them locked up in jail. there's still going to be power. He's still going to be a powerful person and still going to be able to run his cartel, going to be able to run his crime family from inside prison. So you start thinking just, 10 steps down the line. But then when he goes to the penitentiary and, basically frees Count Vertigo and adds him to the mix, and you see how connected he has the guard that is able to get him in there and, shuffle Vertigo out, and just everything that's going on there, you're like, this guy does have some power. And I'm looking forward to the groundwork they've been laying with this guy about who he is and how he's taking over the city. And Arrow's going to come back, and he's going to have to come back swinging. So it's setting up for the next story arc once this one goes through. And I like that. I like the thought of that the creative team is planning for their future, and they're showing us what's coming up next, but we still know there's going to be a process to get there. The fight between Dragon and Arrow isn't going to be immediately. There's going to be the hunt. There's going to be the build-up. There's going to be stuff going on with Ollie and his business. There's the personal stuff with everything that's going on with his dad and his family. It's stuff like this gets you thinking off page, and every time I think off page with a book, it always makes me enjoy it more and sit there and go, yeah, okay, what about this? Hey, I wonder if they're going to go there. I wonder if they're going to go this route with this.
Yeah, it's one of those books that, you're right, definitely gets you thinking. And I really like that the tone shift, I think this is another benefit, has shifted closer to the TV series in tone. I would have no hesitation if I had a friend of mine who was just watching the TV series and doesn't read Green Arrow and asked me for a recommendation on comics to recommend this run. Because I think that oftentimes with comics and media, and this isn't necessarily a knock, sometimes you got to play it up a little differently to get them on the screen, whether it's a big screen, small screen, because certain things just need to work in a different way in that environment. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I'm not one of those fans that feel like it has to be 100% beholden to what's going on in the comics. In this case, I think Arrow as a television series has captured a certain tone. I like that Diggle was brought into this series.
Yes.
I like that it's not bringing him in exactly like he was before, but that he has a history with Ollie. He has a history with Roy. Diggle goes back to being a part of Team Arrow before the current group. And that's something that I like. There's a connecting point between that and the series, but not one that's 100% beholden to the TV series. That's important. You don't need to bring him in exactly, but he's a character who I'm glad is spinning out of the TV series to a more active role in this, because I just think he works.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, you talk about just that human side. Ollie needs a team. We've had some cool stories in the past where it has been a solo Green Arrow, but when you're dealing with a regular, normal person, it always seems more realistic if he has this team dynamic, if he has a support staff. And Diggle, again, absolutely love the guy on the TV show, getting the similar style character, that same feel to him in this series. So I was excited when I saw it, and a couple of stuff that we've already the little glimpses and the little bit story here, little bit story there that we've gotten from him. I'm like, okay, this is that guy. This is Diggle. So I'm definitely happy with this. Now, the thing that I love, and I don't know if you enjoyed it, but the fact that Robert has the quote-unquote traditional Green Arrow look to him.
Oh, yeah.
I love that, because I always thought it'd be kind of neat to somehow, if this younger Arrow could have some type of tie-in, or I've mentioned it on the TV show, if they could somehow show him with a goatee, even if it's just a little blip, like a flash, a singular image or something. I always just kind of wish that, but getting this with Robert with it on, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Showing, this is what, Ollie could probably look like when he gets older. He'll have the full goatee, or me, of course, I'm thinking immediately, he'll start growing out the goatee to honor his father or some type of thing. So we'll start getting the goateed Ollie Queen, the goateed Green Arrow.
Here's the thing. I think they're going to probably shy away from that. Only because they're trying to modernize the character, and kind of step away from that to kind of make him more today. And, probably more in line with the television show. I don't have a problem with that. Here's the thing. If what you said is true and they do go the part where they have him grow out the goatee to honor his dad, cool, I'm fine with that. I don't think it's a bad storyline idea. I think there's a point to what you're saying. But here's the thing with me. To me, it's enough of a wink and a nod just having Robert Queen like that. I think it serves the purpose that you're pointing out. Yes, I did notice that immediately. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Very much your reaction. Sounds like we were very much in the same place there. If this is kind of their wink and a nod to that past, and they leave it there, I'm completely cool with that. Because I thought it was done intentionally to do exactly what you're saying. Like, give us a high five for those of us that have been longtime fans, while at the same time kind of addressing something that's no longer there, making it a family heirloom and just kind of leaving it that way. Maybe Ollie and hair at the beard.
Yeah,
keep it in a jar. I don't know.
Again, they don't need to have the goatee, but I think it'd be kind of neat. It just, seeing Robert with it was enough for me, to please me. But if they were to go that route, I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of neat. Or just, it's that off-page thinking that I get going on. Now here's let's not step away from that for a second, because I guess here's a question. I'm of the mind that I could see this go either way and I'd be fine with it either way. Looking at the goatee right now, do you think the choice to remove it was clearly to make this guy not only look younger but to make him look more today, to kind of New 52 him up? Do you think seeing Robert with the goatee, which look do you like better? I mean, we've got sequences here where you see him side by side with his son, where you see both looks. I mean, so we have the advantage of seeing the same art team have them side by side. What's your preference? Well, within the context of the story and within the context of the New 52, I like the clean-shaven look. Mm-hmm. Just because everything you said, how it is more modernized, it is, a younger Ollie, so he wouldn't have it, and it makes more sense for who the character is and where he is in his life. Now, my personal preference of which picture do you like better, I like the goatee better, because it's just, again, it's that nod back to who I always think Green Arrow is. And it's that nod of who I always think, I don't want to say this is my Green Arrow, but it is my Green Arrow. That's just a look I'm used to. And that's a look I actually do like on Ollie, just because you mentioned it earlier about the whole Robin Hood thing and just that whole Errol Flynn type of style to him. And just, I've always pictured that. Now, that style doesn't fit in the New 52. And I understand why they're not doing it, and I don't expect them to actually adopt it. But, if I had to personally pick which one do I think looks better, I'm going to go with that look, just because that's personal preferences. But I don't think they'll go that route, and I'm not upset, or I wouldn't, complain about them staying how the look is now, because it fits this universe.
You see, it's funny. If you'd asked me before this reveal of Robert Queen being alive, I would have said, they're doing the right thing. They're kind of modernizing all that. I am so torn now, having seen it, and it's a compliment to the art team, because when you see them side by side, I'm like, boy, that really looks tough. I mean, Dad looks like he could really bring it. There's something about that look when it's done right, like this. I don't know. I could go. I would gladly go either way with him. I don't know if you're, doing it on the youngster, the way the age that Ollie is right now, if it necessarily would work as well. I would, I could go either way quickly. Certainly, it looks like there's going to be room, because I don't think that's any kind of shapeshifter that just got hit with that arrow.
Yeah, that's because I was thinking, okay, where is he at? Could that be? I'm like, no, that's Robert who got the arrow, and I'm worried that the arrow goes through the body and hits, the little one.
Yeah.
But when you look at the artwork, you can kind of see the tip of the arrow. So I'm taking it that means it's still in the body, and it didn't actually completely fly through. But you never know how this could go, because Robert's definitely hitting the heart. And they show us, okay, Robert's a kill shot. Now, did it stop with him? Did it go through? Are we going to get a double tragedy, which I hope we don't get, because granted, it'd be a neat story twist to have him trying to save the little girl and she dies. But I would want to see a little kid get killed this way. Well, I wouldn't want to see a little kid get killed anyways. Let me just clarify that. But, just that whole, it's going to be a tragedy enough that Ollie's going to lose his dad before he had any chance to make peace and, have those two have their sit down and just have that moment. But I wouldn't want the little girl to die while he's, sacrificing.
Wait, if
himself.
they killed another little kid in Green Arrow books.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think you'd have a mutiny on their hands. I don't think that's what's happening here. I'm with you. I think it stopped there. This is a book, I've enjoyed Green Arrow since the beginning of the New 52. I've enjoyed the character. I think he's been one that you've seen with different creative teams jumping on the book. There's been various shifts in the character as the different creative teams have been trying to find that sweet spot for the character. And I think it's been hard with the Young Arrow to try and find that sweet spot for him. I think they got it here. I do think this is a book that has greatly benefited from what has come before.
Yes.
And it really just feels right now. So I don't say that insulting anything that came before. I say it with a compliment to what the struggle they were going through. I think just trying to find the right way for this guy. And I think we've finally seen it here. I mean, this really needs to be a template for who the character is. I hope this book is doing really well right now because I think this team's just got it. And I want to see them be around for a long time. Because there's clearly things being done here to develop a larger Green Arrow universe with the clans and with what's going on with Richard Dragon. There's a history that's being built and developed. And even with John Diggle and Roy and, the fact that they're delving more into some of the history that we haven't seen. Like, I like this part of the New 52. I like that Diggle we didn't know that he was teamed up with Roy and Ollie, and that was what Team Arrow was back in the day. That's a benefit from having that 5-year gap. That we haven't seen. So I'm very into this. This is a really good book right now. It's why I wanted to talk about it, because I'm really just enjoying Green Arrow a lot. It's a book I jump to now. And this storyline with the clans, it just feels right.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of those where it's been a really cool build to this point. And this clan story has been something that, I've really, it's like, cool, okay. And they're introducing, the Fist clan, the Spear clan, the Arrow clan, the Mask, the Axe, the Sword. And you're like, okay, we got all the different types of weapons. They got the shield. They've got all types of different stylings and personality associated with that. It's, again, off-page thinking, just left and right, has been going on, especially as this whole Outsider War has been going through. And it's continuing on with that cool cliffhanger of Robert dying and what happens to Shadow, what happens to the little one, what happens to Ollie, plus then we still have the whole Richard Dragon thing going on. There's just a lot happening in a really good way.
It's a development of a lore, and I really like when they develop lore in books. It's funny how the next book we're going to talk about, Wonder Woman, has that same quality. I think we didn't intentionally pick these books because of the way that they connect, but I think there's a lot in our discussion that we had here that is going to carry over into Wonder Woman next. Our next book is going to be Wonder Woman number 30, Thrown to the Wolves. Brian Azzarello is the writer, Goran Suzuka on art, Matthew Wilson colors, Jared K. Fletcher letters, Cliff Chang cover, Peter Baggy Mad variant cover, Chris Conroy associate editor, Matt Edelson group editor, Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston. And apologies for any name butchery. This is one of those runs we know we're counting down on. It makes me very, very sad because I just think this is a book that's benefited a lot like what we're saying with Green Arrow beforehand, with having just a team that just is on the right page. This is hard to achieve, I think, in comics. I think you have those special teams that you remember their runs on books because they make a mark. They have a voice. They've done something that just completely gels on all levels. This run, we're 30 issues in right now, and from start to finish there's been a template that's been created here and I know it's, we have certain issues where it's not the same art team and stuff like that, but the world has been created on such a rich level. Talk about lore. The gods, Wonder Woman, her contact with humanity. There's, now we're having the Amazons brought back, except for Mom, which I wanted to see, but I'm so glad that they waited and built to this over time. And then that first son, that first god that is now building to an inevitable confrontation with Wonder Woman that we all want to see. this is how you do a run. This is why you've got to give creative teams a chance to have long runs, to tell long-form story like this. Because this so matters, because we know everybody 30 issues in this book really well. Not just Wonder Woman. It's everybody who's interacted with her. And they're really a rich tapestry of newer characters or newer versions of classic characters. Not a lot of Steve. Like, this is no insult to Steve Trevor because I love the character. But this isn't like one of those things where we've got like a lot of Steve Trevor. It's really new people that we're seeing her interacting with, and new versions of the gods that we've seen her interact with previously, which I quite like in a way that I didn't know how I would feel when it first kicked off.
Yeah, this is, again, I'm really digging this. And this is something that Wonder Woman, when she first hit the scene, when the new 52 was first relaunched, I was like, okay, this isn't that same Wonder Woman. This isn't that, the warrior diplomat, the princess of the Amazons who, doesn't just beat the bad guys up, but actually is able to solve the matter. This isn't the same Wonder Woman who earned the respect of the talking gorillas. And we had that great sequence with them and their loyalty to her because of the honor she showed. This is a different woman. This is a different hero. And seeing the growth and her personal development as dealings with the outside, dealing with her people, dealing with the gods, and just this character's strength and development has been something that over these past issues, I was like, man, this is some cool stuff. And I got to tell you, I'm really, really liking Neptune now. Mm-hmm. The big giant fish frog thingy that he is. I like the over the top look now. And when he first came out, I was like, I don't know about that. I was very sketchy, but now for some reason it fits and it makes sense and it's right, to that he would look so freakishly large and just so different.
Well, you know what it adds to? If you look throughout history, what different people worshipped, and when I say peoples, I mean groups of people, cultures, how they told stories with rich creatures who looked like this. There's an interesting mixture of gods that blend very well into humanity and ones that clearly don't, like Birthday Cake Head, for example. And you know what? In the beginning of this, I make that joke, but I didn't know how to feel about some of the design choices for these characters. As the series has come on, in the way they carry themselves, the way they've been told in stories, what they do, their actions, you begin to really see beyond the initial look into, this is a style choice and they're telling a larger story. And the introduction of the new gods in this series, which was very surprising to me, considering the focus on the gods that are from Wonder Woman's group. That distinction I thought was really a good idea here. These are all things that I never thought would work, and they've really just done a terrific, terrific job of making me a believer in this series. This is a run that will be remembered.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And the fact that when we've made Wonder Woman the daughter of Zeus, but now she's the god of war, and now the queen of the Amazons. Like, this is, again, new ground for Wonder Woman, but new ground that fits and new ground that makes sense. And this character, when they have her outside of her own title, it's the same person. It's that same, style, and that same feel. The great sequences of her in, Superman and Wonder Woman. The times we've seen her pairing up with Batman. Times we've seen her in the Justice League. These are all the same person. It all has that same feel to it, and it's all coming back to this base book. It's coming back to right here what we're getting. This foundation that was laid out for us. And I'm like, dang, this is a cool Wonder Woman. This is a cool character.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I like that Wonder Woman has that warrior spirit, but the compassion we see from her as well. They get the balance. There is a balance with her that's really, really important. And I like that this Wonder Woman very much feels like the Wonder Woman we're getting in Superman Wonder Woman and in the Justice League. Like, there really is a consistency in the way this character is being delivered throughout the universe that I think is really important as well.
Oh, amen. Amen. Now, it's funny because just actions of the gods, and questions that they've made and stuff, whether they've done the right decision. And you've seen them play the games with people. You've seen them throughout this, torment and harass people. But this whole sequence between Hades and Neptune, I love the fact that he's ready to go to war, and you can see just the army of hell, all the souls behind him, ready to raise up and fight. I personally, when I was seeing this sequence, I was like, dude, don't hold back because you're underestimating the firstborn. But I question, did he actually, underestimate the firstborn, or is, one brother setting up another? Because that's the one thing that I've loved about this book is that the gods all double cross each other.
Yeah, and you don't know who's got a plan and who doesn't. There's certain things that are coming that I don't know. You never know what to expect in this book. There's a political intrigue that happens here as well, which is something that Greg Rucka explored a lot of politics in Wonder Woman during his run, which I really quite enjoyed. And I think what's happened here is Azzarello has really found a way to bring in all the elements that have worked previously with the character before and tie them up into a nice, tidy little bowl. I was a big fan of the Gail Simone run. You were, too. I mean, we talked about on the show how much we enjoyed that. The elements are here from that. The elements from the Rucka run are here. You keep going back. I mean, you can go on and on. There's great runs all the way through. I'm a big fan of the George Perez run, for example, Messner Loeb's run, the stuff like The Contest and all that. This stuff all, applies and works here. And I think he just really is developing a really nice understanding of how to modernize Wonder Woman without losing the core values that make her work. And they really, really work here. Her debates with the different Amazons, and basically this idea, this is, this is convenient that your mom stays clay, and that type of thing. Those arguments are just really great. Are you accusing me of treachery directed at my own mother? It's just really, really great stuff that's happening here.
Oh, God, yeah. And I like the fact that they didn't just make the Amazons blindly follow her.
Right.
This is a warrior race. Warrior, yes, they have their hierarchy. Yes, they have their discipline. But in the end, you got to prove your point. You got to prove your place. Hippolyta proved to the Amazons over and over again that she was their queen.
Yes.
Well, right now, everybody but Hippolyta has been freed. Hey, what's going on here? And the goddess who should be able to free her is saying, I can't for some reason. I don't know why. Wait a minute, hold on. You imprisoned her. You should be able to free her. I love the fact that they're like, they're questioning, and there is that doubt, and they're just making sure, Diana's got to earn their trust. And it fits the society, it fits the culture, it fits everything that these, and that they've been through, that they're not going to just blindly say, okay, yes, let's move on.
And Hera's been running with Diana.
Yeah.
Which adds more to the suspicion. Wait, you're here with her. So how do we know that this isn't something you're in cahoots? There's an interesting point where I could see there be some divisiveness there. It was brought up in a way, they'll basically learn who she is by her actions, Diana.
Yes.
And I like that that's something we need to see proven. It's not just blind loyalty. But yet they will do what they need to support their queen.
Yeah, and I tell you, the funny thing is, that once Diana does earn that loyalty, it will then be blind loyalty. They will do, when Diana proves to them that, yes, I am worthy to be your queen, I am the true and rightful person to be here, to be in this position, those Amazons will give their life for her without seconds hesitation or a moment of regret, because that is their queen, that is their code. And they even, they're still kind of standing guard of Hippolyta just because that's their queen. Mm-hmm. Even though she's still a statue, they're still guarding her. They're still in defense of their queen. And I love just how, again, it's how it's playing out. We're getting some neat stuff that's not just Diana and the gods. It's Diana, the Amazons. It's some gods influencing. It's some, underhandedness here, some sneaky Pete stuff going on. You gotta love this type of storytelling.
I like when they're sitting around the fire and they're talking through it. We see a shadowy figure who is basically helping to fan the flames.
Oh, yeah.
These are Amazons who are already talking about, should we follow Diana, should we not? And basically how to keep them from rallying behind her. That kind of stuff I really like.
Now, that looks like to me to be a man. It doesn't look like, I don't think that's a female. And I'm trying to figure out who that is actually in the hood. Because you get that little glimpse of the face, and you see the smile, the nose, and the eyes. And to me, that looks like a man, but they would have recognized the male voice, and they wouldn't have been too pleased with it.
We've seen enough females who would benefit from Diana being usurped, including some that are gods and related to her.
True.
That it could be that, or it could be a male. I don't know. There's all kinds of ways that illusions could be happening right here. I don't really have a handle on who that is, but I want to know.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Strife was, when we first started seeing everything, that was the first thought that popped in my head. Mm-hmm. But then again, I'm like, I don't know, because I'm looking at what part of the face we can see, kind of the pointy nose, and I'm like, I don't know if that's her or not. I don't know what's going on there. And again, more nice little cool intrigue, and it's going to play, it's very easy to fan the flames when everybody's already mad. You already got your nice spark, so she's just adding a little bit of air to the fire, and it's going up in smoke.
I am not going to the restaurant of Olympus. That like Cheever Lunchables is not like something I'm really into right now. Last issue we see Cheever, leading Cassandra's, handling Cassandra's vehicle and all that. Yeah. Now she's eating Cheever.
And this was a cool art sequence where the look of this like horror on her face. What? And just again the grimace of when the little minion saying Cheever, and just that was, again, it was a really cool moment that, you get this, oh my God, that look as Cassandra's eyes are just like bugging out of her head pretty much as she realized, oh crud, I just ate my friend.
That's funny. Especially when he starved her deliberately to do that to her. He's trying to mentally break her down. He's trying to build a loyal army through intimidation, through mental torment. It's a really different sort of mentality. What a twisted soul he is, that this is his way of operating. This is exactly how you build a villain that we want to see. I mean, there is no part of me that wants to see anything other than Diana completely and utterly annihilate this one.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and it's, the loyalty that he's earning. It's not, again, you have Diana who's going to earn the loyalty through her positive actions. He's going the opposite route. So it's a good... And, it's a good supervillain for Diana to face, that yes. He's going to have this loyal army that's loyal based on fear, loyal based on power, loyal based on the treachery that he's done. They don't want to turn against him for fear. It's kind of the Darkseid thing, where Darkseid is in charge of all that he is because he is just so nasty. Well, the firstborn's going to have that as well. And it's, again, I was like, I love the fact that he had his flesh burned off in his fight with Apollo, but he's still standing, and eventually, it's going to come back, and eventually over time he will heal because he is a god. But it hasn't happened immediately. It hasn't happened overnight because he doesn't have the worship and the admiration of his minions. He just has fear from them. So he's not getting any power from that. But he doesn't really need it. It doesn't phase him because it adds to his treachery. It adds to his end game that he stays like he is.
Zola, when she's walking along on the island, and this like difficult moment of, I hope that this place makes you happy. I would be intimidated, too, knowing you have to be at a place because you're trying to find safety. And knowing that everywhere you've started to try and find safety, there's been some twist. Like, Zola really has not been safe, 100% safe, the entire time we've known Zola. So it would be very hard to get comfortable anywhere. And her situation with Diana, she was running away from her right up until this moment, because she thought it was the right thing to do. So it's a real interesting place that Zola's in. I really like that twist. There's so much story being told in 30 issues of this book, and that's been the great thing about it. There's, you have one large arc happening, but then there's things happening behind the scenes that are constantly filtering along that keep you moving, that keep you wondering what's going to happen next with this character, that character. It's not all about Diana. And that's something that's really critical, I think, to a good Wonder Woman book. You know, you and I, when we talked about the Gail Simone run a lot on the show, one thing we loved was her relationship with Nemesis.
Yeah.
You know, Sir Thomas of Cleveland and going through all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, obviously the wink and a nod to Cleveland was something that we held near and dear to our hearts, but that wouldn't have mattered if we didn't care about the character and his development. You developed in that series just a greater understanding of Wonder Woman's place in our world. This is really showing us a greater understanding of Wonder Woman's place in her world as well. It's a different sort of lens. And that works really rich as well. I adore the artwork on this book. I know we've, you know, had different creative teams working on it along the way, but there is a style here that is being, you know, when they're making choices on who's going to work next on the book, they've been sticking to a certain style choice. It's going to be interesting when this runs over what they do with this book, because really got a strong identity.
Yeah. Here's something I've been thinking of for ever since Zeke was introduced. Mm-hmm. You know, and the more and more it goes on, I'm getting more and more convinced of this.
Okay.
I don't know if Zeke is actually the son of Zeus as opposed to is Zeus. And that was something I've just been, you know, when they first introduced the daughter of Zeus, another child of Zeus, and everything going on, just something, you know, especially these last couple issues have really clicked in me that what if this is actually Zeus and this is where he went to? Because no one knows where he went to. He just up and disappeared. He was gone. He was dead and gone. Well, he wasn't actually dead. He transferred himself into this body, or he, you know, shifted his existence and implanted himself in her, or just and especially with Diana's pledge, having the sisters, you know, pledged for his safety. Imagine now we have Amazons who aren't loyal to Hera, but who are pledged to Zeus now. What if this whole thing was a giant play? You know, because, you know, Zeus figuring he knew what was coming. He knew the second son's coming, and he knew the best way to get Diana to protect him is to make himself this little baby.
But Jim, it has a name. That was such a great sequence. I loved how they handled that.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. There's a trick to bringing humor into any series. I think, you know, you can go a lot more overt with it, covert with it, depending on what you're trying to deliver. And this series does a really nice job of, you want to have a serious tone here, but at the same time, you got to recognize some moments to, you know, have us kind of smile along with what's going on. Yeah, exactly. In a way that just works. Her committing to protecting the baby and saying that it's a law, it's a rule, that all Amazons have to protect the baby is really interesting.
Yeah, and especially that one line where she did, was like, our survival depends on his. You know, this stuff like that made me think that maybe Diana knows who Zeke is. Or the other side of it is, with all the prophecy of the son of Zeus rising up and taking over, maybe Diana's thinking, okay, that's how Zeke, you know, we need Zeke to take the throne when we dethrone the firstborn. And there's just so many different ways they could go with this thing. But again, those are some cool sequences with the little baby, where you get the one moment where he's sleeping cuddly, and then you get the other moments where he's kind of like going, hey, what's going on here? And he's got the eyes wide open, and he's got that baby, the curiosity that little kids get. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
The closing sequence we've got with Hel and his father basically sitting there, you know, you're an example and a reminder to me of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You perceived us as a threat that you actually created. I've tried to avoid my whole life heading down that path, but I'm recognizing that if I don't do something now, if I don't use my army now, it could come back to bite me. But the firstborn shows up and blows out the birthday cake. What a great way to end the whole sequence.
Yeah, it's not looking too pretty good for Hel. I think things are about to... He's about to get his world rocked.
I wonder if a lot of this is then, you know, to offer an opportunity to give us a birth of the next run for the next creators. That makes sense. You know, kind of cleaning the playing, you know, the rebirth you're talking about with Zeus. You know, if Zeke is Zeus, which I didn't think of that until you mentioned it here, but it's funny with everything that's happening here. This could be leading to, Zeus reforming, coming back and dawning a new age, along with the new age of the Amazon that's being developed here. That could be a route this is going, and I would really like to see that. I'm anxiously awaiting where this series is going to go. I'm having just so much fun, really just basking in the ride of this one. This is top quality Wonder Woman, right?
Oh God,
here.
yeah.
And if you're not reading Wonder Woman because of the fact that it's a female lead, you're really doing yourself a disservice. This is a terrific, terrific book.
Our next discussion will be on Sinestro #1. The writer is Cullen Bunn, with Dale Eaglesham as the artist, colorist Jason Wright, letterer DZ Cienti, with covers by Eaglesham and Wright, variant covers by Doug Monkey, Wright, and the associate editor is Chris Conroy, with Matt Idelson as the editor, and a special thanks to Matt Kint.
Dude, this artwork, I just want to start by, first of all, apologies for any name butchery, because this team I'm just adoring. First issue in. I've mentioned the JSA run with Jeff Johns many, many times. Dale Eaglesham was on art there. Jason Wright, colorist on one of our favorite books of all time, Secret Six. There's I got to be honest, Cullen Bunn, I'm very new to with this particular series, as far as starting to notice the name. Kicking off first issue in, this just works. I mean, really, really, this looks like a special book. A great use of a creative team. The writing matches the art. The internal dialogue of Sinestro and riding along with that. But it's pretty. I mean, page after page after page. It's pretty in the words. It's pretty in the art. It's pretty. If you're going to put a Sinestro book out here, this is really the way to do it.
Oh, God, yeah. I'll tell you, man, I was excited when I heard about the Sinestro series, and issue 1 has got me going, woohoo! Just cheering for what we're getting out of this. This is, again, I was very excited, and this really hit for me. And I love the fact that it opens up with this calmer, this calmer Sinestro, this not, I'm going to kick everyone's butt, attitude, where he's alone, he's on his own. It's just, he's in a different place. And I like that how it opened. It was the calm before the storm. This thing really kicked it off, as you mentioned, with the internal dialogue, just where he's at, what kind of mindset we're looking at with Sinestro. And right from the get-go, he's got the physical attack, but it's not him it's not him ring slinging. It's not him doing that. It's him physically kicking some butt, showing that, Sinestro is an actual warrior. And I love that we got this. There's more than just the mental discipline. There is the physical discipline that is Sinestro.
He's almost content to let fate guide what happens to him. Just kind of, he's almost gone monk-like, like he's divorced himself from society, just kind of content to live this very simple life here. Be physical, be whatever. And from his words, it's like, eventually this creature's going to kill him, and he knows it. If he keeps letting things happen the way that they are. Because it's adapting to him over time.
Right.
And he's well aware of it. So it sets an interesting tone as far as he's lost a reason to live beyond this. He wants this kind of simple introspection to be kind of it. Until he starts finding out some of the truth that's going on there. With the Sinestro Corey, here's the history there, doesn't matter. Finds out about his daughter. But then the realization that his people could still be alive is really just like enough to get him back and going.
One of the things I really digged about the art sequence with these opening pages with him fighting this cat-like creature was the multiple read-throughs where I picked up different stuff. You see the initial necklace made out of the cat teeth, but then later the one panel, you can see he's got a couple long fangs that have been kind of tied to his arms. So he's using those as weapons. You're seeing the other bones and just the various surroundings. And these are things I didn't pick up on the first read through because I was focused on his dialogue. I was focused on action. But again, this is stuff that, with a really cool art team, especially like some of the couple panels where we're seeing the multiple levels of the attack of the animal. And he's even commenting on the fact that the ones coming forward going to sacrifice themselves so the others have attack. But on that one panel that has the creative team, and this is something that it took me, probably second or third read-through that I noticed, the red eyes in the background. You've got that one main cat getting ready to strike, but in the background, in the shadows, there's a couple red eyes. There's a set of 4 red eyes that is the next attack, that's going to come down the line. And it was stuff like that these opening sequences along with this really cool retrospective dialogue, you've got these neat art sequences.
I like when Lissa's filling him in on everything, and you see the weaponry of cord and the rings going out there, and the fact that there are these very green yellow lanterns, so to speak, that they're just getting started, and Arkillo's linking them because of a common cause, destroying the Green Lanterns. That's what he's waiting for. But beyond that, and besides looking at his family, we also talk about the anti-emotion religion that's growing out there, which matches some of the things we're seeing going on in the Green Lantern, but sets up a potential foil for Sinestro. Also, beyond that, the paling. We see that going on. We're starting to establish beyond his reclaiming the Sinestro Corps, beyond him seeking out his people, we're seeing other potential foils for Sinestro that are becoming exclusive to this series. We're developing another lore in this book, which is something that I'm really digging in this one. Lissa having his narrative burnt into her is, the narrative is really crazy. Seeing where she's at, it adds another creep factor. And I think with the Sinestro Corps being their focus on fear, you need to have a certain creepiness that needs to be reestablished again. I remember when they first kicked onto the scene, that was like the coolest thing ever. We're still talking about the Sinestro Corps War. That was because not just of that event, but the build to it. Now in the New 52, there's an opportunity through this series to rebuild that sense of what they are and their place in this world. You've got a question like, is there room for another book with a different color core or a different focus like they're doing right here? Immediately in this first issue, you see exactly why there is and how this book can be different. I think we're seeing it come to fruition now in Red Lanterns in a way that we haven't seen. Red Lanterns, I think, has become just an incredibly compelling title. I always liked the book. Now it's compelling.
Oh, God,
this out of the starting gate. Oh, yes.
Lissa was always a little bit on the creepy and freaky side, and any member of the Corps, the Yellow Corps, has to be creepy and freaky because they're agents of fear. But the fact that she branded this to her, and that was not a pleasant experience for her. That had to hurt like heck. And even when she opens her mouth and you see it etched on her tongue, we're talking a whole nother level of, freaky deaky. But the thing that I really liked is the fact that she's recharging his ring. And not with an oath, not anything thinking, just the general energy that is Sinestro, the energy that is the word, and that was the word of the Corps. I love just how, again, a little bit changes to the green lore or the lantern lore.
Well, she is the Book of Parallax now,
right?
For all extensive purposes. I think that's just really neat. And there needs to be at some point some gradual separation. I like that these are concepts. Jeff Johns, when he created the multi-lanterns, the multi-rings, he was doing a lot of what Grant Morrison does. He's created a lore that lives beyond him. And when you can do that in comics, I think it's something great. You create something that now, look what this writer's doing with it, taking it to the next level. He was obviously has read and is a fan of, I don't know what his history with these characters were prior to this, but boy, there's a love for him now, and it's clear on this page that he gets what came before, what made it cool, and how we can continue moving it forward. I think that's really important.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, with you think about the orange lanterns, blue lanterns, well, kind of blue lanterns, red, yellow, and green. It's each one has to have their own, their own flow and their own characteristics. And I was glad that this isn't just another Green Lantern type Corps. This is their own style. We're gonna get a little bit more, strength and development and just the whatnot behind the yellow light, behind the fear. It's gonna operate differently. Their people are gonna be different. The recruits and just the general gist of the Corps itself is gonna have a different strength and flow to it. And I'm really glad we are getting this title to go through that and to develop that and to actually, ultimately, eventually down the line, seeing Hal and Sinestro go once again head to head, but that's going to be down the line. That's not going to be anything right now. They're not setting up a yellow-green fight right now. They're doing a lot more with all these other enemies that they're announcing, that they're giving us the teases for, and just the general the hatred within it amongst itself within the Corps. There's going to be a lot of stuff that he's got to deal with before we get anything that we may think is coming down the line yet.
The ambivalence that he has towards others, other than his people. There's multiple opportunities to rescue others who are also in danger. Leave them for the Greens. Yep. Or leave them to dream of being rescued by the Greens. Really shows where his head's at right now. He's completely divorced from everything else until he goes back and starts to see the distaste that he has for his Sinestro Corps and who they've become is really apparent. And his lack of respect to what Arkillo is in that sequence. This matches who I think Sinestro is. When you see him sitting there, his back is turned to Arkillo. He's got that smirk on his face. This isn't the first time you've tried to lead in my absence. Surely you remember how you miserably failed. And this warrior planning against the Green Lanterns, you can't possibly think you stand a chance against them. Right in that last part when he's holding on to Soranik, I was so glad to see her. We've talked about it many times.
Where is she?
Yeah, the love we have for this character. This is a great opportunity to get her back in the spotlight again. I think she was one of the better creations prior to the New 52 in the Green Lantern verse. I've been sorely missing her in the forefront, and I hope we get to see more of her due to this series, because she's just a terrific, terrific character.
And there's nobody else other than Sinestro who would and could turn their back on Arkillo.
Uh-huh.
Anybody else would be toast. But because it's Sinestro, he knows he can take Arkillo. He knows he can take him. And in a way, Arkillo knows, hey, Sinestro can't take me. So he's not just lashing out and not, he's yelling, he's ranting, he's raving, he's doing what he's doing. But he didn't attack Sinestro. Because he knows, he'll never admit that Sinestro's tougher than him because he is Arkillo. But Arkillo's not an idiot. He knows, he's got to do something else. And I'm curious to see if he uses the capture, his daughter's capture to his advantage. And does Arkillo know who that is? Was that public knowledge that it was that Soranik is the father, even though she flat out says, "Hello, father, you bastard." So it's knowledge now, but did they know before this?
I was taking it that he did. I guess I'm saying yes, but I guess I shouldn't say that because I get the question you're asking, and I'm not 100% sure. But it seemed a lot like to me that was done intentionally.
Yeah, in a way, that's how I read it, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I guess, though, if we're saying that he did that intentionally, we're saying that he did that to get to Sinestro. And right. I didn't get the impression that what he was doing anything to get to Sinestro. I think this is just a coincidence because Sinestro was seeking out his people and just happened to come back. I don't know. I think the next issue will be very telling.
Now, one quick thing that I got to just quickly comment on, because we talk about the use of comedy in the comics and just the nice subtle bits of humor. Back when he's rescuing his people,
mm-hmm.
and he's dealing with the one person who's like, initially, doing, "Oh, sir," and he's, doing the old butt kissing. He's like, "Just who do you think I am? You mean you're not one of the Pale Vicars? You haven't come to claim us for the playing? Oh, praise be the He just takes him, throws him out the airlock.
This is what I want from this book. I'm with you.
Yes. you need to have a body count, especially when you're dealing with Sinestro. Now, is he a megalomaniac that's going to destroy a whole world? No, he's not. But stuff like this idiot, oh, definitely, he's going out the airlock. And when he does eventually fight with Arkillo, it's going to be a bloodbath. And if any of the other yellows try to, puff up their chest and figure, oh, I can take this guy, he will cut them in half, literally. So you're going to get those violence, you're going to get that, body count, but you are going to get Sinestro being Sinestro. You are going to get the intelligence and the power that he is. And I'm definitely just very pumped and excited for this stuff.
Can we talk a little bit Aquaman and the Others?
Oh, yeah.
Our next discussion will be on Aquaman and the Others #1. Dan Jurgens is the writer. Lan Medina is the penciler. Alan Martinez, inker. Rob Lay, letterer. Matt Milla, colorist. Ivan Rice, Joe Prado, and Rod Rice, cover. Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapman, and Rod Rice, variant cover. Katie Dupree is the associate editor. Brian Cunningham is the group editor. Apologies for any name butchery. This is Legacy of Gold Part 1 of 5. And it's kind of poetic because, once again, we're talking about a book that's establishing and working with lore. We've talked recently, we just had a few episodes ago, a chance to talk about Aquaman and how much we're loving that series. One of the things I really liked about this is it's taken another opportunity to look at the history of the character in the New 52 and to bring in this sense of Atlantean history, Atlantean lore. It talks about Atlan. It talks about the others have each of these Atlantean artifacts. Really just kind of establishing a history and a need for why these characters, even though they don't seem to get along, should be together. I like that kind of distinction. There's a rich history between them. They used to be compatriots. That long since passed, but now, like many times happens, these people are pulled back together by fate. A very good kickoff issue. I wasn't sure about this at first when I first heard that, wow, they're spinning Aquaman into a team book as well. I'm like, I'm loving the main Aquaman book. What are you going to do in the secondary book that isn't going to water down what's going on in the main Aquaman book? This is a good way to do it. I'm going to be very curious to see how this book progresses. This first arc has me very interested. And I'm really glad out of the starting gate. Where were you at on this? Were you excited for this right from the get-go? Did you have any trepidation on it? Because to me, it's working great right now. I'm loving this. I wasn't so sure at first when I heard the announcement. Now I'm feeling it.
Yeah, when I first heard the announcement, I didn't know what to expect from it. Because I was thinking, given the title, I was thinking this was going to be the early years of Aquaman when he was running with them, not present day him being, hooked up again with them. So I was thinking this was going to be a younger Aquaman, him dealing with the others when he was actually running with them. So I didn't know, they've done so much cool stuff with him nowadays. I didn't want them to go to the past. Now, I do want the backstory. I do want more of those adventures of him and just when he's first, getting to the throne and all those some neat stuff there. But I kind of wanted them to stick present and keep going forward. So I was very pleased to see that it's a present day story, but we're still going to get these connections to the past. We're still going to get some fleshing out of some of these previous stories. And I got to say, seeing Atlan in the full regal garb and crown, etc., and just how he looks and just the presence, I was like, that's a pretty neat look. I wouldn't mind seeing Aquaman pull in more of the Atlantean stuff, pull in more of his throne, his crown, and just the more regal armor look to him.
I like his look a lot. Now, I like that actually the Atlan belt, feeds the Aquaman belt that he currently has. I'm agreeing with you in that I like Atlan's look. I also, like you, would like to see more of the history gradually. I don't necessarily want a book that focuses solely on that history. I was pleasantly surprised with this too because I didn't know where it was going to go. The way that they've done it, where it feels like everything that's going on in Aquaman's happening. This book is happening in between then, or, that's going to be an interesting thing to see how this book relates to what's going on in the current Aquaman book. I immediately loved, after you jumped from Atlan, that you jumped to Prisoner of War, because he was somebody that I really got an emotional connection with how they handled him in the other storyline. We saw him going door to door, making those connections and things, because he's able to talk to them. to start with him, I felt like he was a character that I really wanted to see again. So it was a good choice in the writing to like begin with him being the first one looked at for the artifacts. Plus, I really dig the gauntlets with the chain and all that kind of... Yeah, there's something about them giving us the first glimpse into, hey, they aren't working. Why aren't they working? Setting up the mystery. I had no idea that they weren't working because they weren't in proximity to the other ones. You know, and they had been away from each other for so long. This sets up the reason why do these people need to be together because of that. And I also like that it's setting up a premise that not everyone necessarily agrees that that's needed.
Yeah. Well, and just you mentioned with the Prisoner of War opening up with him, because, again, he is a cool character that you have that immediate connection to him with the fact that I love how they opened him up with he's at the street kitchen and he's seeing these, soldiers who came home. They have no place, they have no jobs, they have no prospects, and they're in the food line. And just again, the brethren is right there saying, man, this is wrong. We got to do something. And as he's looking onto this whole big problem, he gets attacked by these unknown groups. And right from the get-go, you have this cool, tender moment of who this character is, gives you an idea, gives you, again, more glimpse into him, just more of the human side of him, and then goes right into the action. And I love how we get these cool, smaller panels setting up the bad guys coming in the backdrop, and then bam, 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 right into some cool fight sequences. This was, again, another cool layout of the art teams as well as the writing teams. Just this great, team dynamic coming through to give us a neat finished product.
Yeah, this is an example of another creative team that's just working really, really well together. I like how we jump from different locations. You start off in New York, we go to Brazil. And in Brazil, we see Yawara? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. It's funny, I'm not sure if I'm butchering her name or not. I adore the character. And I love the tease of there was something between her and Aquaman. She's a little resentful of Aquaman's relationship with Mira. I like that kind of dynamic going on because now these characters are going to be together. This will play into Aquaman's relationship with Mira, which I'm a great big fan of. Anything that just keeps the drama going with that is cool. I like the focus on her being kind of connected with the jungle and her relationship with the animals. It's just something that I think we don't really have in DC right now. We have Animal Man, but this is different. If you know what I mean. This is more jungle specific than animal specific. There's a definite distinction there with her. We don't really have this going on right now, and she works real well.
Yeah, and again, really cool usage of action sequences. Then right from action sequences, you get some funny, tender moments, but you still get that seriousness of her. You still get, okay, we've got a lot to deal with. And, really cool way they handle the Panther just completely destroying, and just, ripping the guy to shreds. It's in the backdrop. They don't get too gory, but you know exactly what that thing did to him. And as that's going on, she's sitting there talking to the nice little cute little golden monkey saying, okay, you're safe now. Come on. And she's even laughing and playing with him as the Panther comes back, licking his lips after eating some hunter. It was really cool usage of violence, some humor, some really neat art sequences, but again, wonderful way to introduce this character, even though it's not a true introduction. We know who she is, but if this is your first time picking up this book, you're knowing who she is. You're knowing what she's about. You're getting that groove of her. And I was glad to see that they didn't write this so that you had to read all the previous stuff in the Aquaman title. If you're just sitting there, let me try this book, let me jump from this get-go and see what's going on, you can pick this up because they're giving you these introductions into the characters, but they're not sacrificing story to tell you. Within the confines of the story, within some cool action sequences, some really neat artwork that we're getting, some beautiful artwork that we're getting, we're learning who these people are. And I was really happy to see that, in the storytelling.
I like the refresher. See, for me, I'm reading, you like me are reading a lot of books, and it's great to have just kind of a refresher in the beginning of who these characters are, their relationship, and also what the current status quo is. because there's things that have happened clearly off page with these characters since we've last seen them. So it's kind of a bringing us up to speed. And I like that. I mean, that's kind of a good place to put us in, where we're all, as readers, in the same spot with them. And these few pages doing this in the beginning, I think they really made a good use of the page count for each one to make these kind of quick things, bringing us an overarching story that is connecting all of them. You know, because you go from this into the Ghostlands, this is something that I marvel at. When you're able to so flawlessly switch between different places and give us this sense of immediately we're in a different spot. Like a drastically different spot. Color tone changes. Visual drawing changes. It's clearly the same creative team because we're seeing an art style that's very familiar. But at the same time, you're giving us rich, vibrant locations that is... I mean, this couldn't be more different than the jungle.
Yeah, and Sky is really cool. This is a neat character that I'm glad they brought into the mix, and I'm glad we're continuing, showing her down the path. So it's... kind of curious as to where they're going to go with with her association with the with the others and just everything that's going to play out with her. I was glad that they didn't drop her or they didn't get rid of her. That she's still part of this team.
Joshua Cole, the operative. I'm into this kind of espionage kind of stuff when you got a character who builds off of that idea with an artifact like the key. That part I really enjoyed, how even though the key didn't work, he was able to analyze the room and find out a secret place, in that globe, and find what he was really looking for, leading us to our first appearance from Aquaman. Now, we're pretty far into the book at this point, and we're just seeing Aquaman. This was really well handled. The recover the key bit with, you can recover the key? Seriously? This is like asking Batman if he can find a gargoyle. What a great line.
Again, really cool usage of some little funny moments within this action sequences. And again, when they first introduced, when we first saw him, I immediately started thinking, okay, the grandson's going to take over for him, and he's going to become the new operative. And when's that going to happen? So when everything was playing out here, I couldn't remember the name. I couldn't remember if this was the grandson or if this was the original one. When I first read this. So you're talking about a refresher, and I was glad to see that. Okay, oh yeah, it's still the same one, but the grandson's still there. So he's gonna probably jump into the mix eventually within the story, within the confines of the story, I'm assuming.
Yeah, which is really great. Then finally we start jumping to a villain. Start seeing that there is these initial ones were to get our feet wet. These are operatives who can't really measure up to the others. So it establishes for us that each of these characters that we're seeing have a skill set that makes them above and beyond normal man. Now we've got somebody who is saying, I'm not at war, but if I need to take care of this myself, fine. We're basically seeing that there is going to be foils that are brought in. We're not going to see this guy operating right away, but man, do I want to see him. This guy is definitely a big bad.
Oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. He can throw down.
Anton. And I'd like to see where that character goes.
Yeah, you wonder though, who is the unknown voice? That was the thing that always, the voice he's talking to, because he is the big bad, but he's not really the big bad. There's somebody he's answering to. There's somebody else who's pulling the strings. And that's one I was trying to figure out. I'm wondering about. Again, you think off page. You start thinking, is this an Atlantean issue? Is this a science issue? Because Aquaman's made a lot of enemies. Or is this going to be everything 100% new?
Or, is it magic-based? Is it related to Atlan? I don't know. I mean, there's so much to see there. You're right. There were a lot of questions that were on the table there. And I like that it establishes a lot of continuity for us right away as far as who everybody is and their interactions with each other. The living room being under attack and all that I thought was really great as an opening sequence. And then we flash to the end sequence where we get kind of a glimpse into that future's end.
Yeah.
So, those visions and this, was it Seiya?
Yeah, Seiya.
Yeah. I'm anxious to see her role in all of this. There's a lot going on in this series that just has me really excited. and I want to see where it heads.
You want to know something weird that just popped in my head?
Go for it.
Because it happened right as you said when we were talking about this unknown voice, and you said, is it related to Atlan, the alchemist that we see in the very beginning that Atlan slays to take the gold that made these pieces? Mm-hmm. What if that's his essence, trying, and he needs these pieces back to get his body back, and this has all been about him coming back to form?
Cool. I don't know how I feel about any of that, but cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a cool theory. I don't think that was a throwaway sequence in the beginning. I think, if that was just to establish the history of these artifacts, cool. If it was establishing something else, even cooler. I'm very anxious to see that. I think you're onto something. I'd like to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't think it was just an establishing sequence. I think there's something more to that that's going to play out to us.
You mean kind of like an establishing sequence?
I meant not just a throwaway.
I don't think it was an establishing sequence. I think it's going to play into something later.
You know what I meant.
I don't think the sky's in the sky, but we have to look up to see it. I'm sorry. I know what you meant. You were trying to say that it isn't a throwaway sequence. It's probably going to play into something bigger, and I'm not sure. And I guess when I say that, I don't know if Atlan and the Alchemist are actually a larger role other than establishing the importance of that gold and the artifacts in general, or if they will actually play a larger piece. I do think I meant what I said earlier when you started mentioning that. I wasn't thinking of the Alchemist. And I think there is a point that could be the disembodied voice that we're talking there. I do think you're onto something. I'll be curious to see where it goes.
Hey, you know what? Good news. Mm-hmm. I'm looking closer at that the image of the Future's End, mm-hmm. and I'm seeing something with wings in there. So you're going to get your Hawkman.
It looks like a robot Hawkman.
Well, is evil robot Hawkman better than no Hawkman?
Well, is this like ruled by OMAC?
I think so, maybe.
Take a look in the background there. Is that Brother Eye?
Hold on, That's kind of the eye symbol. Mm-hmm. We know OMAC's not around anymore. So this could be Brother Eye's next plan. Right. Or this could be what happened to Brother Eye. Right. I mean, this could be what happened to OMAC when he got thrown into that vortex of the unknown. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested. So, I don't know. They really kicked off a very good introduction to a series here. It's funny with the two new ones that we've got here. They're two good starts to new books. I like that, when you lose, like we were losing some series that I'm really enjoying, and when they're replaced with ones that are exploring other parts of the lore of the whole DC universe that you've been wanting to see, it just adds. I like that it's not all about the same characters all the time. Like, I love the idea that we've got a Batman Weekly series. I'm not one of those going, we got a Batman Weekly series right now, I got to pick up another Batman book. No, they're good. So I'm a Batman fan. Give me more stuff as long as it's quality, and I feel like there's some really strong value to it. I'm the guy who grew up with, Batman having multiple miniseries going when he had 3 monthly books going. And, so I'm used to reading a lot of Bat stuff, and I don't feel like it's overwhelmingly skewed more than it ever was in the past. You get this amount of Batman content, and that's great. It's really good. But along with that, I like to read about some of the smaller characters, the lesser-known characters, adding the others in right now. We're exploring something new. Sinestro Corps, not just exploring Sinestro, but exploring the core that he's created. Adding new villains into that book, I think, is adding something rich. Actually, all the books that we're talking about this month have added some new features into their history that we haven't seen before. Or in a way that we haven't seen them before, the stuff that's going on with Richard Dragon and Aquaman, for example, or, it's Diggle coming into the DC universe. I mean, it's all stuff that's just working really great. When you and I select books that we're going to talk about on the show, we try to hit on things that we haven't talked about in a while, but we usually come from the lens of, hey, what book are you digging right now that we haven't chatted about? And we really picked 2 new ones that we wanted to touch on because they're brand new, and two books that have been around
since the beginning of the New 52 that are really just batting high. These are some good books. I'm glad we talked about them.
Oh God, yeah. And we've said before, and I still will say it again, this is a good time to be a fan. This is a good time to try some stuff and see what's out there, see what you like, because, again, 2 jump-on points here, and we're also kind of looking at a neat jump-on point for Arrow, even though it's been an established run, but we're starting a nice new direction for that title, with the characters and where it's going to go from there. And Wonder Woman's got some neat stuff coming down the line, and we're going to see what happens to her.
Can we talk a little bit just casually about the ending? I know you and I plan to talk about just casually the ending of that Forever Evil Blight that was in Justice League Dark number 29.
Oh, God, yeah. I love that.
Because, we've had this whole series where, we had the character of Blight that was introduced. We had the idea, this is a side story of what's going on in Forever Evil. We heard about this big bad that, Ultraman and that whole crew was worried about coming. So they got the magic users together for the purpose of basically preventing and causing a defense to that thing coming. Maybe even a mystical fence of some sort. But they were really planning on using them as a power source and gathering them for that purpose. Nick Necro, we see, who we know from history, Constantine, Zatanna, and Necro were like this triumvirate, and we've seen the rich story develop there. Constantine's love for Zatanna, but Constantine being Constantine, so torn over all that. This sequence at the end where Constantine has to make some really, really tough decisions, I was so torn because I wanted to see John step up and continue stepping up and not fall back into being John.
John, yeah. Well, I love the fact that this ultimate sacrifice that was made by quote-unquote Constantine wasn't really Constantine, but it was a demon shell from inside Constantine.
Who really ultimately had the best parts of Constantine.
Yeah, it was the love that he had for Zatanna that drove him to be that man, drove him to go from being this demon that was a piece of John to being this hero. And I love that notion that, this demon could still rise up, and this demon could actually change, it can change his own stars, change his own destiny. He became a man, he became a hero. And I loved seeing that, especially when I realized, oh, yeah, okay, I remember that. Oh, that's neat.
The decision that he has to make in that moment, recognizing that he can make a choice to either become what that being was or to betray Zatanna to seek self-preservation. Oof. He deliberately chose to betray his team. What an incredible turn of events in that sequence. I wanted to smack him upside the head.
I wanted some other thing that he was doing something else.
Yeah.
I so wanted it to be where it looked like he was betraying them, and then he was going to come in off the side and do a surprise. I didn't betray everybody. I really did this. I was so hoping for that. And as the story's going on, you don't get that. I'm like, it's again, I can't even say that I hated it because it so fit John. It so fit Constantine that you're just like, oh man, I can't, dude, you were so close. You were there, but that's not who he is. This is Constantine. This is who he is, and it's that that character flaw, that tragedy, that who he is, and oh man, I felt bad for him, but I felt worse for Zatanna because she was actually believing in him. She was trusting in him. At that one point in time, he wasn't there.
I like that. I love Zatanna, and I love that it was a showcase for her. I like that it's leading to a storyline. There's more to it for Constantine. It's not as simple as what we're seeing here. There is more to it for him, especially if you've. I'm not going to read much into it right now because we're not talking about Constantine 13, I should say. But in Constantine's book, you start to see that there was more to what's going on here than what we actually see, to a certain extent. But it is John being John.
Yeah.
And there's something about that. Like, I found that refreshing, the way that they handled it. That it wasn't kind of the cliche and ending clean. And it sets up a new status quo for Justice League Dark that Constantine could always come back to. Because in the magic world, circumstances lead you that way. Look at what happened with our buddy Nick Necro, who was back in for a visit.
Oh, yeah.
I loved this storyline that it didn't end clean. And for some reason, that works better in Magic. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Supernatural books, you can have books that don't end clean. Swamp Thing was a great example of a story ending bittersweet, but with tragedy. With what happened with his love.
Yeah.
It happens here. I like this.
And the Nightmare Nurse. Mm-hmm. She's on the team of the heroes, and she's fighting to save the day. But when she was introduced, she's not a hero. She's not a good guy. But right now, she is helping them. And, she's going to be part of Justice League Dark for a little while, but how much do they know? How much can they trust her? They've seen in battle when they're fighting the demons, when they're fighting this big bad that's, destroying the universe, she stands up with them. But, how much can you really trust her? How far is it going to go with her? And I think she's an interesting character, and I'm glad to see next issue we're going to get more of her backstory and more of who she is, because she's somebody that throughout this series, throughout Constantine stuff, that they've introduced, and I've gotten a comfort with her. I'm like, I like this character. She's got, again, the Magic universe has that touch of gray. You have to have it, where you never know exactly, is it going to go positive? Is it going to go negative? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they themselves? Because that's a lot of the Magic users they are in it for themselves. And if it's suits their purposes, if it saves their neck, then yeah, they're going to fight with the heroes. But if it doesn't, then guess what? They're going to hold off a little bit, and they're going to see where this plays out.
So Nanda Parbat vanishes.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't think we know where it's going to be yet, or if it's ever going to reappear, or because it just went through the crossroads of time and space.
Is there an art error? Here's something I want to ask. Go to the page where she catches up with John in the House of Mystery.
Okay.
Flip back to the page before that, where the team first got teleported by that volcano, and you see the whole team
right there. Yeah.
Okay, you're seeing it too.
Yeah, he's sitting right in the middle of the group.
Yeah,
and he should have already been gone.
Right. Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one seeing that, because I don't think that's definitely not meant to be that dead body of the red one, because the red one's already been transformed at that point. Tiny little thing. I didn't really notice it until one of my later read-throughs, but I didn't know if I was missing something. I like that the House of Mystery, because it's a living entity, has chosen to kind of expel its tenant and go along with a new one. Yeah. And maybe in its own way, because of John's history with Zatanna, that it connected with Zatanna because of that, and then ultimately decided, oh, maybe this is the better route for me to go. I kind of like that. I like the Magic. I think one of the strengths of the New 52, and we've mentioned this on the show multiple times, I think has been the development of finding a way to make the Magic characters really work in modern comics. And I think that they found a way to... It feels classic. It feels like kind of that stuff that we all liked in the past, but yet it feels very current, very today. You and I are both fans of shows like Buffy. And I feel like this book is really, and Constantine and what's going on with the two Trinity of Sin titles. There's Swamp Thing. There's a nice supernatural world that's been developed here that I'm glad to see continuing moving forward, because they've got a little pocket going on here in DC that I find. You talk about palate cleansers, I know you mentioned them on the show. It's probably a little too simplistic for me to say it that way, but the point to that being this is an escape from your traditional superhero comic into something that's done a little bit more. The creative teams that are on board of these are just doing a really nice job.
Yeah, talk about the touch of gray in these heroes,
yes,
in these characters. And you think about some of Constantine cutting deals with and being partnered up with some of his big foes just because it needs to be done right now. Right here and now, this is a good time for a little alliance, and we got to go with this. But guess what? Down the line, they're going to double-cross each other. We talked about with Wonder Woman how the gods, are going to double-cross each other. It's just the nature of who they are. Well, that same type of style is with the Magic users. You're going to get people working together knowing that they're playing a game against each other. They're setting each other up. I'm going to, looks like I'm helping you, and yeah, I kind of am. But if this person takes advantage of the situation, knocks you off, better for me. As long as they don't knock me off with you, hey, I'm happy and I can use this to my advantage. How can I use these circumstances to my gain? And I think that's one of the crucial parts of the Magic universe. And you get these heroes who are the solid heroes, but even those characters will still cross the line. Like Zatanna, solid, true hero. But if you give her the situation where she has to choose between the 1 and the million, she will take out the 1 to save the million. Now, someone like Superman wouldn't do that. He'd say there's always another way. Zatanna would take it to the edge, try to figure out another way, but if she had to, she would take out that 1. And I think that's the distinction in the Magic universe, where those heroes, even the true heroes, will still take that final step, because in Magic, everything has a price. Yeah,
exactly. That's one of the things that the price is the part that I particularly love about this. And you mentioned that sometimes when the true heroes are brought in, regular superheroes are brought in, sometimes even if it doesn't change them, their reaction to the people in this pocket of the universe is something that I richly enjoy.
It's funny, you mentioned how we're both Buffy fans, but also I'm a fan of Being Human. And I saw the American version, not the British version. And again, that was something where they explored magic in that universe. And they had that same type of mindset where every spell has a price. Everything, there's always the give and take with it. And this was something that, because that's the American series just ended. And how everything wrapped up and how everything ended there, it was kind of neat how this story is playing out and how that one's playing out. And I was just like, I noticed that there was some cool just similarities and the same vibe. The stuff I was liking in that TV show, I'm also liking in this comic.
Yeah, I am too. That's a good example. I actually love a fan of the British version first. You're linking that series to this particular world, I think, was something I didn't expect, and it so fits.
Yeah.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
I want to shout out our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. That's always available in the show notes and on our website. We love having you part of the show, so feel free to call in with any topic you'd like to discuss on the podcasts. We also have our show website, ragingbullets.com, which links to our Twitter account and our Facebook page. Besides our Facebook page, we are sharing a Facebook group with DCinfinite.com. It's a great way to connect with DC News and just a fan community that's devoted to all of pop culture. It's just a wonderful group of people. It's grown beyond our show, and that was why when we had an opportunity to partner up with DCinfinite.com, it just made a lot of sense to allow both of our audiences the opportunity to interconnect and mingle and talk about all things DC. And like I said, pop culture in general. So people shout out podcasts, blogs, everything there. And it's really just a rich, wonderful community. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up, please do so. It's a wonderful group. We also have a Google Plus page. Jim and I also have personal Facebook pages. I have a personal Google Plus page. Feel free to add me if you're a friend of the show. I tend to post on my own personal page on Facebook and Google Plus more than I do on the Raging Bullets one. I tend to use those as utility pages for the podcast itself. So if you want to connect with me directly, please feel free to add my personal page. And, I love interacting with friends of the show. It's great to have this community. We're very lucky now to have that. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, DCBService.com has Absolute Batman Haunted Night hardcover, $99.99 regularly, 50% off, only $49.99. Remember that DCBService.com is your comic book pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, Neil Gaiman, The Books of Magic, John Bolton, Scott Hampton, Charles Vest, Paul Johnson. It's gorgeous. If you haven't had a chance to ever read this, it's a 208-page volume. It's a 4-issue miniseries about Timothy Hunter. And just a rich history was developed spinning out of this miniseries. And if you're a Sandman fan for Neil Gaiman and you haven't had an opportunity to check this out, it's really just him expanding on the rich universe and tapestry that he was creating over at Vertigo. $16.99 regularly, 50% off, only $8.50 at InStockTrades.com. Remember that both DCB Service and InStockTrades.com support a number of podcasts. Please go to the handy-dandy link on our website and click on them and check out and see what kind of offers they have that might appeal to you. James, our next episode, we are going to talk about Justice League United number 0, Flash number 30, Secret Origins number 1, Teen Titans number 30, and All-Star Western number 30. It's a very packed episode. We want to do a mix of some books we haven't talked about in a while, one that's ending, and a couple of new series that are coming on the end. So we got a nice packed episode. We will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan. And what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see.